Hi, this life prepper here, and what we'll talk about today is shtf, cries of the people become silent. Basically, it's just simple on anything. Now, we're out here enjoying nature, my son and I, while he's down here visiting, and this here is just a perfect example when you think about it. We talk about the New World Order. Well, only 500 million people to survive. First of all, chaos will happen. Martial law will be declared. And people will say, help me, take care of me, feed me, shelter me. Where are you? Help me.
That's because they're so codependent on society and government taking care of them all the time.
And that's what's going to happen. But then what's going to happen is the looting. You see it now on TV and the internet and the news where they run up there and they do it in the name of so-and-so. When they don't even really care about that person to begin with. They're just there about stealing and looting. But what's going to happen in a real chaos situation? Nobody's going to be safe. They're going to be knocking on your door. They're going to take your food. They're going to take your meds. They may even take your life. There's going to be no law. The people who are abusers secretly will have no law to stop them.
Except us.
That's just
Be
it.
vigilant. If you see something wrong, you see a woman being raped, child being molested, you see some unrighteousness, don't stand by there with a camera and just watching it or slink off. Actually be a human and actually do something about it at that time.
Unfortunately, a lot of them's just not going to. They're just not. What you're going to end up seeing, the ones that does survive, many of them you're going to be seeing doing this. Right now, this is just a recreation area. We're up in Lake County, up there in the northern of Ohio. Right now, this is just something that we can enjoy. You can see where people just cut some wood and brings it out here and leaves it. But in all truth, when it happens, this is no longer going to be a thing of enjoyment. This is going to be feeding yourself, sheltering yourself. You're not going to look at this as just a day out anymore. And you're going to be paranoid. After so many people's going to die, after so many people's going to be killed off, after the government closes their doors and walks away, this is what you're going to be facing for those who are surviving. The cries of the sick is going to be silenced. The cry of many of the children are going to be gone because they're going to die. If their parents are killed and a baby is in the crib, who's going to take that baby and hold that child? Who's going to feed that child? That child is going to die if someone does not find that child in time and takes kindness upon that baby and take care of that child. The cries of countless people who are going to be attacked and murdered and asked, where are you? Why are you not here to take care of us? What happened? Will become silent. The cries of the people who are attacked by their own government. You're going to have National Guard people. You're going to have people in office like firemen and police officers and government officials that are going to be renegades.
Look at New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina, how those cops who were supposed to be serving and protecting turned around and started looting and actually murdering innocent people. They went through and disarmed the people and started actually murdering people and torturing people. I'm just saying, I mean, that's just a great example of what your so-called authorities will do.
1,000 guns was only gathered up. Think about that. They went to door by law, by the governor's orders to collect ammunition, collect weapons. And out of all these countless people, they only got 1,000? Only 1,000 guns? And how many people lives in New Orleans? Several 100,000?
There's There's a lot of people. I would say probably roughly around 100,000, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. But because New Orleans itself is really not that big, but nonetheless, I mean, for how small of a city it kind of is, it is very dense in population.
So when you think about it, though, even at 100,000, and only 1,000 guns, 1,000 weapons was rounded up by the government order. What is that? 1%?
Well,
Not even that, is it?
Well, all considering most people are so afraid of having firearms because of all the propaganda and this and that, and with all the laws and everything being set up, most people nowadays just don't have firearms of any kind in their homes, and I do believe that everybody should have firearms to be able to protect themselves. I'm sorry, but if you wait 15, 20 minutes, and that's the average response time for law enforcement in general to get there, if somebody's coming to murder you or rape you or whatever, you're done for. And like in Wisconsin, they tell you not to have firearms and that you wait. Sometimes there's no waiting, for anybody to come save you. You must save yourself.
Well, you think about it, people. I'm nothing against the guys, but in a rape situation, they're, with 2 or 3 minutes, they're done. Because it's more of a control situation to get their rocks off, basically. But in that 2 or 3 minutes, they have done attacked you, they have done beaten you, and maybe even left you for dead or even murdered you.
And that's not even counting psychological either.
Yeah.
And if you get pregnant by them. I've done a lot of traveling around the United States and everything, and I've met a lot of traveling girls. A lot of them that I've met are actually veterans at doing it. But the few that wasn't, my advice is always to them, you carry a knife. I was like, I don't care how small that knife is, you carry a knife. But I've actually went out and actually bought them big giant buck knives. I was like, if some guy ever climbed on top of you, you gut him like a pig. Don't wait. He's like, because if you're going to wait for a cop to come save you, you're done. You are already done. It's better to go ahead and take that charge in the course of finding you guilty than that guy to do what he's going to do and keep doing it to other people.
This is where, like I said, the cries of the people become silent in event of a SHTF situation. In that event of a SHTF situation, the martial law has been declared, everything else, there's going to be no help. They're not going to come because first of all, they're going to be overwhelmed. The sirens has gone off, they're overwhelmed, and believe it or not, there is going to be a lot of good people out there that's going to stay on the job, and they're going to do what they can to help people. But many of them's going to walk off that job. And can you really blame them in a SHTF situation? If I got children at home, I got someone to take care of, do I want to keep putting my life on the line for a bunch of people that's going to try to murder me or maybe murder my family? Or do I go and be among that group to go grab the food, to grab what I can, to grab the fuel, and run home and get my family to protect?
Well, if you think about it, we'll say like an EMT, for instance, that walks off the job, and because he already knows that things are already going to fall apart, it's already done, it's already set in motion. And I'll say he or she gets hooked up into a group of, 5 to 10 people, and none of them have any kind of medical skills or anything like that. Well, that guy right there, in the long run, yeah, he may have just walked off the job and maybe a lot more people died in a way, but in a way he's going to save a whole lot more lives out here, not just because necessarily the people that's in the group, but also along the way of people that he or she can actually mend, fix, and bring back to health, rather if it's through some kind of disease or an injury, or even giving childbirth.
That's just it. And people with military training, with weapon training. I'll be honest with you. If I was in that situation and I knew that my family and everything was there at home counting on me to get there, and I knew I needed to take care of them, I'd be gone.
The good ones will, and they're actually very far and in between. But the good ones will go back home, and the good ones will, if they do get hooked up into a group situation, which most of them will, they'll be working on how to keep the group alive and save other people and be righteous. But a majority of them, what's going to end up happening is maybe not during while while it all hits the fan, but afterwards set up more of like militia groups.
And that will happen.
Yeah, and those are going to be the very, very dangerous ones.
I don't remember. I don't know if some of y'all ever watched the TV show Revolution. It lasted for 2 years.
God, that was a great show.
But the two guys was best friends. They was in the military, and they created this government, and they did the brainwashing. And here they was in control of all this. They created a militant group.
The Monroe Republic.
But one of them wound up walking away because he couldn't deal with it anymore. It just ate away at him.
Because it wasn't what he was trying to do. He was wanting to save lives and actually protect the weak, and it ended up he became that monster that he was fighting against.
That he hated. But his friend was more of the monster than he was. His friend, the sad thing about his friend did not become a monster until the woman he loved who was carrying his child was murdered. That's when he became a monster. And that's what happened in his situation. Will it happen everywhere? No. Will the groups make a difference and save people's lives and set up camps and everything? Yes. There is still going to be good people out there. There's still going to be chances, but also there's still going to be people out there who's going to kill, hurt, steal, and they don't even have to. And then you're going to have the sickos. And yes, I'm talking about sickos, period, who prey on children, who will rape their own kind.
I'm gonna tell you what my favorite thing about all that's gonna be, is that I don't have government to tell me what I can't do. So yeah, if I find some guy who actually raped and murdered a woman, molested a child or whatever, there ain't gonna be no law that's gonna stop me from being able to put a bullet or a knife in his skull.
I agree with you on that. As a group, you will have to decide how you are going to set the rules and regulations. When no longer the people are crying,
And every group and tribe will be different.
Yeah, each tribe will be different, and no longer will you hear the screams. You will hear silence, because once everything's done and over with, once the martial law has kind of left, once the governments has left behind and created their own group, their own selected people, and they have their own selected people. Most of us will be left out here to survive on our own. Most of us won't make it.
Well, look at The Walking Dead, about how that one guy they call the governor set up a whole town and pretty much brainwashed everybody, even through all that zombie apocalypse where they could have been fighting all the zombies and saving people. He got power hungry and he wanted to rule the world, more or less.
And then he did the same thing when he walked away, and then he got in the other group, and then he got crazy again and wanted the prison. Instead of them willing to share the prison, they was willing to share with him. Said, we can make a group here, we can share. No, he didn't want to do that. So what happened is everybody just about died because of power. And this is what you're going to look at. When I say it will happen one of these days, worldwide SHTF event can very possibly happen. When? We don't know. It talks about that God says 1,000 years is a day to him. We do not know when this is going to happen worldwide. It has been happening since the beginning of time in small spurts, in small areas, 100,000 here, 500,000 there, to 2 million here, 3 million there, that's been slaughtered and murdered. In a SHTF worldwide situation, it's not just going to be 2 or 3 million. It's going to be billions of people dying. So when you no longer hear the cries of help, of people needing things, and you hear silence, just like now, all I can hear is the crickets. You hear silence, and that's what you are going to hear. And that's what's going to happen.
I'm cool with that.
Become silent. So it's a lot to think about. Are you going to be among the people to survive? Are you going to be one of the victims? Are you going to be one of the marauders? Are you going to become part of the one who gains? Are you going to become part of the problem? Or are you going to become part of the solution? Would this end up being your temporary home? I'm sorry, but those manicured nails are going to go bye-bye. Those $500 suits that you guys wear and the pedicures and all that's going to be gone. So the choice is going to be left up to you. Are you going to be among those crying for help? Or are you going to become among those that are silent fighters and survivors. So this is a lot of prayer for here. I want you to be safe, be happy, and I hope this day never comes for any of y'all. Bless you all.